ahead and kick off and get this started. It's first, welcome. Thank you for joining us at the SBDC for today's webinar on exporting to the European Union. Our agenda today is, kicking off a little bit about the SBDC, and then we're so excited to have our partners with us from the U.S. Commercial Services. They've been joining us at all of these. This is our third. We had our first couple on Mexico and Canada, and we have this one, and upcoming a little later this year will be Singapore. So they're always part of these, and we're so happy to have them here. We got a new speaker from them today, along with Exim Bank, Vendonga and Leroux out of the Netherlands, and then a little wrap up with the SBDC. So a great bit of information. Also wanted to let you know that we have disabled Q&A today, and we just want to have everyone just jump on chat and chat with us, post your questions, and all those sorts of things. And then my name is Tom. I'm with the SBDC. I'm a business analyst. I'm also a certified global business professional and a former VP of international trade. Been to all 7 continents, over 15 countries, and have worked in export, international trade, as well as things in branding and marketing and lending and raising capital from investors. I'm part of our capital team, and just excited to be here as part of the international trade and export team. So we will go ahead. Let me tell you a little bit about the SBDC. And we're part of America's SBDC Arizona network. And in Maricopa County, we have 15 business analysts. We call them counselors, and 10 different centers in Arizona, along with some satellite offices here in the Valley. We offer no charge counseling. So you get to sign up, request counseling, you sign up and get work one-on-one with your assigned counselor. And of course, if that counselor is looking for assistance from someone else, for example, we may have someone you want to work with, and then you will have some export questions. They might bring Carol or I in to help with the export questions, a member of our CAP team or someone else. We also offer these no-charge training programs. We've got these on destinations this year, and I saw one of the questions already popped up in that chat about tourism. Next year, we're going to be looking at industries, and one of them specifically will be tourism, which is an export product for the U.S. So stay tuned for those specific announcements for next year. And then we also offer other resources. We're going a little too fast, Karen. We also offer other resources in terms of research tools, variety of tools, references, community partners. I also want to just share that the SBDC is funded by the SBA and Maricopa Community Colleges here in the Valley. We're also supported by our partners at the Arizona Commerce Authority. So with that, we're going to go ahead and introduce our first speaker. And there she is. Christina's got her camera on already. So Christina Parisi is a Senior International Trade Specialist with U.S. Commercial Services. So Christina, we'll let you take it away. When you wrap up, I'll come on and introduce our next speaker. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. My name is Christina Parisi, and I work for the U.S. Commercial Service. We are the export promotion arm of the International Trade Administration and U.S. Department of Commerce. I'm going to give a brief overview of what our agency does, and then a little bit about the overview for the European Union. I can mention something about tourism. I actually gave a presentation yesterday at the Arizona Governor's Tourism Conference about international tourism, and that included Europe. So I got to see a bunch of other presentations about it yesterday as well. So am I doing the, okay, there we go. So we have a wide variety of services that we provide to companies. Our main focus is small and medium-sized organizations, but we work with organizations of all sizes. There's many reasons why we as a government do this, especially export promotion. It brings in money into the economy that wasn't already there. So it helps to increase the overall spend in the US and helps, the economic multiplier. It goes down the road as well. We have 4 main buckets in which we put our services, but I would like to say that this isn't all we do. We, things always come up, issues come up, and we always try to pivot to be able to address those. So I'll briefly go over these each: the export counseling, market intelligence, business matchmaking, and commercial diplomacy. So next week. Export counseling, this is the vast bulk of what I do on a day-to-day basis. I'm somewhat of a help desk. I get calls from companies all over the state and often from out of state who have either immediate questions or want to start the process on possibly exporting. I also work with a lot of companies that are in certain markets, helping them to enter additional markets. And it always starts with the counseling. And all of that is free to you as a taxpayer and us as a government agency. So there are some startups that I'm working with right now that I've been working with for a couple of years, and we're just now starting to move into the international arena. Many companies especially come to me through e-commerce. You're immediately an international company as soon as you have a website that can be accessed outside our borders. And that's how people come to me is say, hey, I got an order through my website. Can I fulfill it? How do I fulfill it? Not only can we help you, but we also have an e-commerce lab online that can assist with you. And it has a lot of tools, including links to private sector partners that can help you as well to do the really deep dives on your website and social media strategies. Okay, next one. Market intelligence. This is another resource that's free to everyone on our website. And we have 4 main kinds. We have our country commercial guides. We publish over 100 of these by country. We publish them even for countries where my particular agency is not involved, but the State Department might be. So we're always trying to gather this information, and they all are structured the same way to make it easy for you to navigate additional guides once you've accessed one. Those are all available by country. Then we also have industry related information that isn't listed here. But if you go to our industries page, we list out our industries and we pull in, that's where we have our research related to specific industries as opposed to countries. We can also do customized market research for companies. I do those for some companies very specifically when they only have a very small need and a few pieces of information, and they want to do multiple countries. And I mentioned this for EU because I helped one company actually do 29 reports, customized market research for EU. That was also when the UK was still part of it, and it also included Vatican City. We can do some really additional regional deep dives as part of that. International company profiles are another way companies come to me. There's something called export administration regulations, which if you're exporting, you are aware or should be aware of those. But it includes making sure you know who you're doing business with and that you're allowed to do business with them. And sometimes it's unclear. Names can be similar. It's hard to find out who they are if they're on the other side of the world. So that's where we have our international company profile come in. And this is where we start to get into the paid services, the customized market research, the international company profile, which can do a background check. And we used to have 2 levels of those. Now we have a 3rd one. We have an immediate vetting services that our rural center can put on for rural companies. Then there is a partial company profile that you can do using the publicly available information. And then there's the full company profile, which can do the background check, getting the references and giving you an opinion on the suitability of them as their partner. If you're not, if you just want to know more about the market for your product, we have something called the initial market check. And some of these services are new. They came out about us trying to find new ways to help companies, and then they become a service. And initial market check is one of those. And it gives you just a really good overview of the market related to your product, such as competitors, any challenges, opportunities, and an opinion on whether that is a good market for you. So these are really good, especially for markets that are either very mature or emerging. So in the next one, business matchmaking. This is probably what we're most known for, is we do custom matchmaking in other countries for your business. And who we are looking to matchmake you with really depends on what industry you're in and what your goal is for the market and what your specific product is. We usually would start with the international partner search. And this can be like a vetted search where we search for partners based on your information, and we make sure that they are appropriate to be a partner of yours. And so what we'll do is set up the meetings. Well, the goal key is where we set up the meetings in the country and you travel there. And we usually recommend that because it's a faster way to do business. It's not always, I won't say that it's fast, but it's a faster way because you get to meet them and really start talking and making relationships at the beginning. But a partner search can be a good first step for those markets that are either very far away or they might still have some travel restrictions. which might still be happening in a couple of places. If you really just want to kind of gain some leads internationally and create another link back to your website, which increases your social media, we have what's called a featured US exporter listing. And that's where you can get listed on the website of one of our embassies in that country. So it's in that country, so they can access it easily. You're attached to the US website, so they know you're legitimate. And it's used for just marketing purposes and for social SEO purposes and for lead generation purposes, because it links back to your webpage. We also have, say you're not an exporter, but you work with exporters, or you want to be a resource for either companies coming to here, this state, or that are going into another location. We have that business service provider listing, which you can apply to be on our website. We can apply to be on the Phoenix website today, for example. We do a little bit at a vetting, but then that is available for anybody that goes to our website and is looking for someone with expertise in that particular market or location. Okay, the next slide is trade events. We do a lot of this. I was at 2 trade events myself. We have our signature ones, which is the Discover Global Markets and then TradeWinds. TradeWinds is the biggest business or trade mission of the US government. And we had this just this year in Asia for 2 weeks, and it was really fantastic. And my clients that were there, either as some of them were sponsors, some of them participants, they're already getting sales from these. The next TradeWinds is in Europe. So I don't have the full graphic. I wanted to include it, but I don't have it yet. The next one's going to be in Turkey, and it has stops in Denmark and Italy and Kazakhstan and Poland. So if you're interested in those markets, you might want to check out our upcoming one. Also trade shows here in the US. We do a lot. We work with trade show organizers, and we do this and we work with our staff around the world. We have staff in 80 countries. Sometimes it's 78, sometimes it's 81. It's always, changing based on security and economic conditions. But we are all around the world in over 100 cities, and our staff in those locations can recruit buyers to go to these shows. And the trade show organizers pay us to do this. So if you go to these trade shows, and you can go to our website to find out which ones they are, you get additional benefits as an exhibitor through that trade show organizer. You can meet with the buyers that we bring to you. We have our staff that lead the delegations, and they can give you very specific counseling on that market and for your product. And again, it's an add-on bonus to exhibiting at that trade show, and which is why trade show organizers like to work with us, because they can leverage our global presence. They usually have their own representatives in really key markets, but that they can use us for the other markets where it's too expensive for them to have staff. We also do this for international trade fairs, and those are always industry specific and are supported by our local staff. Okay, next slide. Commercial diplomacy. This is actually a really important service for smaller companies, medium and large companies. And there's different facets to this. I'm going to start with trade dispute resolution, because that's how probably more frequent of some of these, which means that say you've given someone credit, or you haven't given them credit, but that you only charged them partial and they were supposed to pay the rest and they haven't. We can reach out to them and try to bring everybody to the table, or if there's another dispute, to get everyone speaking to each other. We're not mediators, so we can't do that on your behalf, but we can at least reach out. There's going to be other people talking on the panel on how you can maybe avoid some of this in the future, but sometimes disputes are unavoidable. I have a client going through one of those right now, and so I've provided him a list to attorneys in Arizona who are capable of being able to help them on an international basis. The Advocacy Center is another really important service, and I would like to see more smaller and medium-sized companies get involved. This is when a foreign government has put out a tender, a request for bid, a request for proposal on usually a very big project in the millions. And a US company either wants to or is considering bidding on that. The Advocacy Center, after they vetted you as an appropriate company to bid for that, I mean, we won't stop anybody from bidding on anything, but we can advocate for you specifically if we feel that you're a good company for this. And if multiple US companies have applied for this, we'll advocate for all of you that have applied and been approved. Sometimes it's only one US company bidding, and we will put all of our resources behind saying, please consider this company. We have other resources in the federal government, such as US Trade, USTDR. What they do, they can provide additional resources that can either level the playing field if other countries are adding other resources, bring on training and other things. Again, it's all based on the country and the industry and the size of the deal for that. Trade barriers, we have an entire group in DC that work on that. I don't work on those as many. I think a lot of companies don't necessarily know what a trade barrier looks like. So what I would say is that if you're having difficulties in a country that you don't understand why they're happening, please bring it to us, because they might be trade barriers. These spring up all the time. Okay, now I'm going to go into Europe very quickly. I think I'm running a little over. I'm behind. So the good thing about the European Union is, at least from my point of view right now, is that there is no way I can give you the overview of every market. There are 27 member states. That was now that UK has left, but it is one of the biggest partners. And especially here I'm in Tucson. Tucson companies have a lot of business in Europe. And they were hit hard by the pandemic, just as we are, also by inflation, also by energy uncertainty, which brings on economic uncertainty, and also by the war in Ukraine. But they are increasing. From what I just saw yesterday in the tourism is that they are starting to book, but they are booking farther out, 6 months in advance. So they are planning right now to come back. So, and I think tourism is the same as all businesses. Everyone's trade shows have been very busy lately, so everyone's getting back to work. So I expect this to get a lot better. And then, of course, the second good thing, not just that you can sell to the EU and sell to everyone there through, and I'll get into regulations through an easier process. They also have a free product kind of trade zone where you can easily move products within there, even if you don't get the EU trade benefits that might be there. So the leading sectors for U.S. exports, these are very similar to what's in other countries, because this is where a lot of the advancements are happening in automotive. Nobody really talks about driverless vehicles anymore, but still automated technology. Energy and environmental technologies are huge. They're looking even more and more at startups. So if you have a product in this, you should definitely look at that. There's more we can go on about the circular economy, but there's basically is that they want to reduce their outputs or take those outputs and make them into inputs into another industry. And as you can see, Germany is our biggest partner, and it's also for Arizona as well. The Netherlands is also very big. It's also an entryway into Europe. A lot of people ship to there. And I have on here the harmonized system for mineral fuels, pharmaceuticals, machinery, optical and medical instruments, and aircraft. So these are also places where we sell a lot, but they might be more mature industries and maybe not be growing as much. So services is what is growing very rapidly. In fact, I would say for the companies that I work with, a lot of them are services, especially optics companies. So don't, and I would say this is more on the engineering and high tech side, but if you are, I've helped attorneys and others, people that have services access those. And a lot of software consulting and cyber consulting can be services as well. So you can definitely export services. All right. I'm going to do really quickly on these, and these can be shared. IP considerations are the same as everywhere. You need to make sure that you account for them here in the US. And then in Europe, there is you can apply for the EU, but each member state has their own say. So you'd really want to focus on which markets you plan to get into and start with those if you need copyrights, if you need trademarks, or things such as that. We have on here, we have an entire attaché in Europe that can work on this. So what I would just say, go to our website or reach out to us. Standards in CE marking, this is also very important. You can self-certify, but you need to make sure that you get it right, because any one of those markets can challenge challenge you in saying, no, they really aren't eligible for the CE mark that they gave themselves. So what I would say is, again, reach out, look at our market research, and then look at the rest of our information and reach out to us if you have any more questions. VAT is also very important. It used to be where you could ship samples and other things under $25 and there would be no VAT, but that was abused. So now there's VAT on everything, but they're trying to also make it easier for people to collect those VAT. And we also have partners and resources that can help you on the VAT recovery end as well. I know I'm going through this fast. Some of this isn't quite new. If you're in the e-commerce business, you know about this. It's been a big deal for years now. And that's why we have to pick our cookies and every time we go to a website now. We did have a framework called the Privacy Shield that was struck down by the European Court, but we have come to another agreement on reenacting that. So once that's up and running, we'll send out the information on how you can get certified for data privacy and protection in adherence to the GDPR. So I hope I didn't go too fast, but I'm here for questions at any time, and we'd love to hear from you if you're interested in going to on our trade mission.
Hey, Christina, we do have some questions.
Okay, great.
Well, you've just addressed one of them. That someone said, are there opportunities for services or just products? So you've addressed that one. The next one was, thank you for the presentation. Can U.S. Commercial Service help us find a trusted European representative before the European Patent Office for their PCT application? And I don't know if that's the type of referrals you do or not. Yeah,
yes, we find partners. Caveat, our staff in that country and that post really needs to think it's a good market for you, because if the service, because we do charge for our services and it didn't go well, you could complain to your congressional leadership if you wanted to, and that's not what we want. So if we're not sure if it's a good market for you, they might err on the side of being of caution. But as long as we feel that you know how to export and that you have some possibilities there, yes, this is what we like to do. We like to open sales channels, find you partners for recurring sales. Yes, we can help with those one-off sales. They are important, but we like to help you with those relationships so you do create a sales channel. But to be clear, like us, you don't offer legal services. And yeah, I think for the person asking that question, if you're getting your PCT in the US, you will work with your US attorney on that, and then maybe you want someone else to help you with actually internationalizing it once that's issued, right? Well, and for things like trademarks, we have the Madrid Protocol where you can apply in one place, but you still have to follow up with each country. But a lot of people do just like to have like a local partner there, and those partners, this might be what they do. They might be able to, we wouldn't say use these partners to register on your behalf because you want to own it. But yes, I mentioned the business service providers. For example, I was just on Germany's the other day. They have a huge list of business service providers and a list of attorneys and other local members. And there's also AmChams, American Chambers of Commerce in those countries that they also keep lists like this. So there's actually a few different ways of finding these partners if it's purely for legal purposes. And of course, at the SBDC, if you become one of our clients, work with us, we're happy to help assist with those referrals as well. I also want to mention that, our folks that we work a lot with at the Arizona Commerce Authority have something called STEP grants, which we can help you learn more about, where, for example, if you need an international partner search or a gold key or one of the many programs offered by commercial services, you might be able to get some help with funding that. So another question, a simple one for you. What's the website to get more information on the trade shows? Oh, go to trade.gov. And then there should be, I think it's trade-events, but at the very top, there's like, they have like for US businesses, for international businesses, find an event. If you're in a particular industry, I would suggest going to the industry page website, because anything that we are working on or have our staff or our buyers going to is going to be listed there. And that's another way of finding out what trade shows. For example, just a month ago, I went to a UAV trade show called Exponential in Denver, and we brought hundreds of buyers from all over the world. We brought 30 from Romania, first time a Romanian person had ever gone to that trade show. So I would say that we're always trying to open up new markets and bring people closer to you to the US at those trade events. So you don't have to spend as much to go to international shows, which is still wonderful, but sometimes you have to start local.
Okay, we got 3 more, so we'll go through this pretty quickly.
Okay.
Someone's a client of, they say the US Department of Commerce in Atlanta, and they said, would I need to become a client with this office as well? Or are you all connected?
We are all connected, and we're also very flexible. A lot of companies have staff all over the country, and we say whoever the decision maker is and who's going to be pushing this forward, where they're located, feel free to work with your local specialists. But Thomas mentioned the STEP program. If you do want access to the STEP program, you will need to be an Arizona business, but you can really work with any of our offices if you have a presence in those locations.
And then this one might be a little specific, so it might be one of those follow up with us, but it says, can you help with unfair taxes on imported steel coil? Also, we're looking to export building steel products to Europe. Can you help with this under green construction? So it sounds like maybe it's a little more in-depth conversation, but what do you think?
Well, there's 2 parts to that. The import side, that would be all of our DC staff that works on that. I work on the exports, but on the export side, absolutely. We have these cooperator grants that industries go after. I remember a few years back that the Green Building Council had gotten one of those. And they often do these to kind of get a sense of where this is happening. But if you go to our design and construction page, industries, they'll list some of our upcoming events that we're going to be working on, as well as we can always do tailored services for you in these countries that you're looking to export to.
Then the last one, maybe we defer this to our friends at Van Dongen and de Roo. Says, curious why the Netherlands is a common shipping entryway to the US. What about Ireland? Can any of the services at CS or SBDC assist with getting our products through customs to the shipping warehouse, regulations, labeling, cosmetic supplies, products for Europe, India, Asia? Thank you. So I think we'll kind of defer that first question. On second question from an SBDC, we can, certainly help you understand some of those. We're going to be reviewing some of those today. And we can also help you make connections to friends at companies we know that you offer those type of services. But as far as commercial services, type of assistance for getting through customs, you want to comment on that?
Well, I would say we help definitely if you have a product on the other side of like in another country that's stuck there. We like to count you in advance to make sure it doesn't get stuck. But if it's stuck there, we ask who's your agent, who you're working with, and our staff in that country can work with you. Imports coming this way, that's all Customs and Border Protection. So that wouldn't be our office. But if it's regulatory related to maybe like anti-dumping or other issues, that's where our agency would get involved. If it's like a chronic issue that's occurring, we would get involved. If it's just these one-off, questions and things, it would be Customs and Border Protection.
All right. Thank you, Christina. Really appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and move on. We'll let you know if any other questions come in and send them your way, or you can look at them in chat. Thank you so much for joining us. And then next up, we have Sandra Donzella, the Deputy Managing Director for the Western Region of Ex-Im Bank.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Tom. If my presentation could be up, there it is. Okay, great. So good morning, everyone. As Tom just mentioned, my name is Sandra Donzella, and I'm a member of the Western Regional Office of the Export-Import Bank of the United States, or Ex-Im, as we like to call ourselves. I'm based in California, and am responsible for coverage of your lovely state of Arizona. So if any of you have questions or want to run a potential export transaction by me in the future, I will be your primary point of contact, and all of my information is noted in the last slide. I'm gonna try to do this in 10-15 minutes, so I may speed through some of my slides. But the main message is that, to give you a basic understanding of who we are, what we do, and any questions you may have, again, I'm happy to address them offline in the near future. So you just heard Christina mention the valuable resources that are offered through the U.S. Commercial Service to help you start to export or expand into additional markets. But once you are already exporting and you come across a buyer that is looking for more flexibility on the payment terms, any credit, or it could be that you need financing to be able to fulfill export orders, or maybe financing for plant expansion. Whenever financing becomes an important consideration, that's when XM can be a resource to you. If you're not familiar with who we are America's official export credit agency. So we are an independent government agency. We have a long history for 89 years. Like most government agencies, we're based out of Washington, D.C., but to be in closer proximity to the exporting community, especially small businesses, we have a network of field offices across the country, and I'm part of that regional office network, again, based out of California. And the mission of XM is to support U.S. jobs by facilitating U.S. exports. So U.S. exports and U.S. jobs is really what we're about, and it's something that's very important to us. Just to clarify, we do not offer any resources to support imports into the U.S. And also everything that I'm going to talk to you about today is all B2B, or programs are available for companies selling to other companies. And then next slide, please. In terms of what we do, and I have a slide on each of our programs, but basically our level of assistance that we can provide will vary depending on where you are in your export journey and your particular needs. So for example, if you need financing to be able to fulfill export orders, perhaps you're growing internationally and that growth has put a dent on your own cash flow, or solution would be the Working Capital Loan Guarantee Program, which can help you more easily find financing from a bank. On the other hand, it could be that perhaps you are already extending credit internationally, or maybe you're selling on a prepayment basis, but you have customers abroad asking you for some level of flexibility on the payment terms, maybe to go from prepayment to 30-day terms. And if you're concerned with the risk of non-payment, and perhaps you also want to increase your borrowing capacity, then our solution will be the Export Credit Insurance Program, or Foreign Account Receivable Insurance. And again, I'll explain more on that momentarily. Also, say you export equipment, big ticket items, something that's considered a piece of machine, capital equipment, machinery, and you have a buyer or perhaps several buyers that are looking for financing options to be able to purchase the equipment from you. Maybe they want to pay you in 3, 4, or 5 years. Then we also have solutions for that through our medium or long-term loan guarantee products. And we also offer a relatively newer solution that has to do with the goal to bring back manufacturing into the U.S., or for businesses that are looking to onshore or maybe plant expansion and need financing to do that. We have a Make More in America initiative, which basically is an extension of our existing medium and long-term programs, but they are available now to exporters, to companies in the United States looking to expand. And if the output of that expansion will have an export nexus, then XM would like to be part of that. Next slide, please. We're here also to support companies of all sizes, small, medium, and large, but we are very proud of the strong support that we offer to small businesses, which consistently, year after year, have represented the majority of our customers. For example, last year, nearly 90% or 88% to be exact of all the volume of transactions that XM processed were represented direct support for small businesses. And more than 50% of all the applications involve requests that were under $500,000. In terms of the total dollar amount that we approved for small businesses, it was $1.5 billion. So again, we're very small business focused. Next slide, please. We also are very focused on addressing the unique needs of minority and women-owned businesses. And we have a whole team dedicated to provide more guidance and outreach. And last year, they're very active. Last year, for example, they participated in 166 outreach events, in person and webinar, to support their needs. Next slide, please. So let's get a little bit more into EXIM's Export Credit Insurance Program. This actually is our most demanded program. It accounts for about over 70% of all the transactions that we usually process in a given year. And it's very popular because inevitably, most businesses that are engaged in exporting will likely develop a need for it, even if it's just with one buyer. And what it is, it's very simple. It's really an insurance policy. It's peace of mind. It's not a loan to you or your buyer. It's risk protection in the event of non-payment by your international customer due to commercial or political reasons. So for example, you've negotiated a sale and you've decided to offer the buyer 30 or 60-day terms to pay you. If you ship the product, you invoice that buyer, you've essentially created a foreign account receivable. That is what we are insuring. If the due date comes and goes and the buyer doesn't pay, say they declare bankruptcy, you could file a claim to EXIM and we would cover 90 or 95%, assuming you selling to private sector buyers. And the goal here is that by minimizing your risk considerably, to help you compete more effectively globally, because increasingly buyers abroad, including many in Europe, where they've always been more used to getting credit. So basically it's to help you offer credit internationally, which ultimately will attract more buyers to you and help you grow your business. And we can insure repayment terms under the short-term insurance of up to 6 months for most spare parts, components, consumables, or longer for equipment or quasi-capital equipment or bulk ag commodities. So it can be used again as a powerful sales tool by offering buyers competitive and flexible repayment terms. And even though this is not really a loan to you, it can be also a valuable financial tool to help you increase your borrowing capacity from your lender. And that's because all of our insurance programs can be assigned to your bank. Most lenders in the United States will exclude from your borrowing base foreign accounts receivables. However, if you have insurance in place, then the risk is minimized and that becomes more attractive to a bank. So most lenders will finance foreign accounts receivables, but again, only if they are insured. So it can help you maximize cash flow versus having to wait 30 or 60 days for the buyer to pay you. And we have a variety of different options depending on whether you want to insure just one buyer, multiple buyers, or just a portion of your portfolio. I believe I only have 5 more minutes. So next slide, please. I'm going to skip this one. We basically cover just about anything that go wrong with the exception of disputes. Disputes, you ship red, the buyer wanted white. We just don't have the resources to judge who's wrong or right in a dispute situation. The goal here is to cover commercial or political risk losses. Next slide, please. Eligibility criteria, because the goal for EXIM is to support jobs, we can only work with products that have been made in the US. They may have foreign parts or components, but it has to be made in the US with over 50% US content, which we measure a cost, and it needs to ship out from the US to the buyer in the buyer's country. We're also open pretty much all over the world, including all over Europe and pretty much without any restrictions in the European Union. And then both the exporter and the international buyers do need to meet our credit standards. Typically, what that requires is a 3-year sales producing history. And then depending on the exposure you will be asking us to insure, then we may require certain credit information. Next slide, please. And here's an example of a company in Arizona that has been a customer of EXIM for 9 years. Since 2014, this is a small women-owned business that was established in 2014, and they came to us for insurance, and they export to Europe. They have customers in France, and they have a policy that's called the Express policy. To give you an idea of the cost, it's little over 0.5% or 0.65% to insure export sales under this particular program. Next slide, please. We also offer working capital loan guarantees. So if you need financing to be able to manufacture or purchase the items that will be exported, this will be your solution. Here, our role is that of a guarantor, where we are offering a 90% guarantee of repayment to a lender. And we have a network of 52 lenders, I think it's 52, nationwide that participate in this program. And we're happy to make introductions. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. In the interest of time, I'm going to have to skip a lot of this. Quick example. Here's a company in Tucson, Arizona, Competitive Engineering, Inc. They have been a long-standing customer of EXIM Bank since 2005. And over the years, we've supported more than 55 million in their export activity. And they came to us for working capital support to be able to manufacture precision parts, which is what they make. Next slide, please. And then I mentioned we also have solutions on a medium and long-term basis. For us, medium term applies to transactions up to 25 million, exporting capital equipment when the buyer is looking for a longer repayment term. It could be, say, 5 years. And here our role is that of a guarantor, where we offer 100% guarantee of repayment to a lender that in turn is providing a term loan to your customer. And we also offer solutions if you're looking for plan expansion or to expand manufacturing capacity and need financing for that. We have the Make More in America initiative, where we're looking to support manufacturing in the US. And next slide, please. Here's my contact information. I apologize for having to rush, but feel free to reach out to me anytime if you like to learn more, and hopefully we can support you.
Hey, Sandra, thank you so much. And we do have a few questions that were asked. And for everyone that's asking a couple times, recording and materials will be posted on our website shortly. So let's see, questions. I had a couple that came our way. Does the EXIM, or how does the EXIM help with services export?
We can support services. They will need to be provided by US-based personnel. And they can be provided either in the buyer's country or from the United States. And services we've supported in the past are engineering services, environmental study services. We've done architectural services, training services. So yes, we can support services.
Perfect, thank you. Someone direct chatted me one. Are EXIM Bank services, from a small business, easier or harder typically to access for EU business versus, say, another region they might be exporting? So I think what they're asking too is basically, is EU a little easier from an EXIM Bank perspective?
Well, I would say we're open pretty much without any restrictions in the European Union. So from that perspective, it would be easier. It also depends on the exposure you will be asking us to insure, or if you not need financing, the guarantee programs that we offer would require you to go through a bank for financing for yourself. But for example, if you're looking to pursue an insurance policy because you're exporting to the European Union and you want risk protection, the turnaround time for a policy is usually only a couple of weeks, maybe a little longer depending on the backlog in DC. But it's a fairly straightforward process. We do require certain credit information to be provided with the application on the buyer. So as long as you have a completed application, that enables our underwriting team to move forward and process your application more expeditiously.
Thank you. And then, excuse me, Dean out there had asked a question. I see Christina's addressing some of that. I'm trying to understand, and this was right before you talked about it, in what ways you help small businesses with, say, equipment purchases for creating and supporting their export business. It seems like they haven't had great success with SBA products so far, and want to know about that. Dean, I could also tell you, I'll relay your question to your business analyst, because you might want to talk to him about the State Small Business Credit Initiative, which is a new program that's out with additional funding for small businesses. But you can tell us more about that. I think you said it's the Made in America or Make in America program.
Yeah, but basically that was that's a result of President Biden's supply chain executive order that was issued back, I think it was in April of 2021, which, you know, if we learned anything from the pandemic, is that there's a lot of gaps in supply chain, especially in certain industries that are critical to our security, such as, you know, in quantum computing, semiconductors, biotechnology, etc. And basically, the goal there is to help onshore and bring back manufacturing to the United States. So it's a program that expands or existing medium and long-term loan guarantee programs or direct loan programs, where if a company decides, okay, maybe they manufacture right now a product in China, but now they want to bring it to Arizona. So they need maybe a $10 million loan to put together this new manufacturing facility. They could come to EXIM for support on a $10 million loan. The program was designed in mind as a loan guarantee, but if no lender can be found, we have the ability under this option to consider direct loans. So potentially, if the transaction, you know, gets approved, we will be providing a direct loan to help this new manufacturing facility be put in place.
Okay, Sandra, thank you for that answer. And it sounds like for Dean, who asked that question, if we can go back one slide, please. For Dean, who asked that question, you'll see Sandra's link there to make a direct consultation. And we are working closely with EXIM towards deepening our relationship with them. And Sandra, I'll follow up with you, and maybe we can get some written information about that specific program that we can also share with people. So thank you so much for being here. And our next presenter, and then Carol, the business analyst, also part of the export team, Carol Leisure-Poole, will be wrapping up after that presenter. So our next presenter, well, we have three folks with Van Dongen and de Roo in the Netherlands. We have, I believe, Dennis de Roo, and then we also have Dennis and Leonard, part of the team. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to you to present your information.
Yeah, this is Leonard speaking. We just lost the connection with Dennis de Roo, who was going to do the presentation. So we actually are waiting on him to get back to the webinar.
Okay, Carol, why don't we do this? Do you want to jump into the portion you were going to present, and as soon as Dennis comes on, we can back up and do that piece?
Yes, sure. Let me go to my slides. Just one moment.
And Karen put in chat for everybody that the webinar will be posted on the website by end of tomorrow. So let's see, this being Wednesday, that means you can find it Friday.
Hi, can you see my screen?
Carol, we see regular export documents.
Yes. Okay, so this is the list for the export documents when you export to Europe. So start with the sales contract purchase order when you have it ready. And then the next document you need is the invoice commercial, is a performer invoice or commercial invoice. And then packing list, bill of lading, and the next one is export license if the government required. So when you export from America, some of the products might need export license in order to export. And then if you are in that export restriction list, please check this first. And if you are exporting anything with animal related, you might need an animal health certificate. And then if you do any products with agriculture products, you might need a phytosanitary certification. And then you also need to have a certificate of origin. If you have a wood package, you need a wood package certificate. If you don't have wood package, you need a declaration. So here are some tips I had for the SBDC clients. Because a lot of people might use a common sense, like American common sense, to think about exporting, but that's totally wrong, because for the destination country, their regulations will be so much different than what you thought. So the first tip I give to SBDC clients is that do not assume you know the destination regulations, which you don't know. So please make sure you understand the regulations very well, or you really know what you're doing before you start the export. So the next thing is I suggest you work closely with your buyer and your buyer's freight forwarder to get a better understanding of the destination regulations to get ready and to make sure the documents, everything is correctly before you start doing any work. So the last tips I had is just if you're not, you get everything ready, you have your financial ready, documents ready, but you just don't want to take a big risk, you can start a small trial order. So this is the tips I have for the SBDC clients. If you have any questions, you want to talk more, you're welcome to come back to me and I'll come back to our team. And then you can start request a counseling on our website, which is maricopa-sbdc.com. Let me check with Dennis. Dennis, are you ready in your side? Hello?
No, Leonard's still here. No, I see Dennis is only at the participating and not as a panel member. So
We'll bring him up.
Okay.
There we go. And Carol, while he's coming up, I'll let you back up to their slides. But someone did ask, do the wood package include wooden pallets?
Mm-hmm. Just one moment.
No worries.
Including wood pallet. Yes, the wood package is, I'm talking about the wood pallet.
Perfect.
Yeah, besides the package, like the box, some of them will have pallet. The pallet can be plastic or can be wood. If you have a wood pallet, normally you have to have a wood package declaration because the wood need to be fermented. I
All
welcome
right, so I
Dennis.
see we have Dennis with us. Dennis, we'll go ahead and back up to your slides for you. And as we go through them, just say next slide and we get that advanced. So I see Dennis is adjusting his camera a little bit.
Yeah.
So Dennis is Dennis DeRue is the managing director. And again, he's joined by, I think, Leonard also in the office. So Dennis, you ready to go?
I'm ready to go, but do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
All right, we'll let you.
Yeah, I don't know how my screen is, so I hope it's okay.
Yeah, you're fine. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, we are a shipping and forwarding company. As said, we have multiple disciplines within our group. We call it the squad, like a football team, but I believe you call it soccer. Anyway, our specialist on the USA trade is Dennis van der Wel and Leonard Kwak, who are joining the meeting on the back slide. Anyway, next slide, please. Who we are. We were founded in 1977 by my father and Arie van Dongen. Arie van Dongen left our company in 1982. And from that, yeah, we got specialized in multiple disciplines of the supply chain. We are an authorized economic operator, which means that we are allowed to do clearances within the European Union. Besides this, we are also allowed to represent customers by power of attorney for their custom clearance. We have multiple disciplines within the group for intermodal capacity, such as trains, inland shipping. We have trucks and several other disciplines within the group. Next slide, please. Unique selling points are, among others, the CO2 sustainability, which means we can actually produce the CO2 you are producing with your shipment. We have our own software capability. We have our own software team, our own company who builds software, which means we can connect with every system, such as SAP, Navision, Microsoft Dynamics. We have 350 dedicated colleagues worldwide. We have 222 trains running around Europe, mainly Germany, but also Italy, and we can connect via Duisburg, Germany, the whole of Europe. Our turnover is 250 million a year. We also service our service providers, such as the shipping lines, by providing them with a storage capacity for empty containers, which we can clean, repair, and reshuffle, and so on. Besides this, we have both in Antwerp, Belgium, and Rotterdam, the Netherlands, capabilities to do custom clearance. Next slide, please. Here I show you some of our relations. We also sometimes work for the competition. For example, with our train operation, we provide services for, let's say, Kuehne+Nagel, DHL, and Damco. Nowadays, it's called Maersk Logistics. Besides this, we also, of course, service the container industry, so leasing companies. And besides that, we can also service direct shipping relations who want to move their cargo from, let's say, the US into Europe. Next slide, please. As said, DNR Customs, we can do both custom clearance in Belgium and Antwerp and Rotterdam, the Netherlands. These two ports are the biggest ports within Europe. Besides this, we need a power of attorney from you, but then we can service you with, let's say, the custom clearance and certification. If needed, we can even provide you by setting up your own business or office here in the Netherlands, and then interact for us as an intermediary. We can issue several certificates within the European Union to provide you with, let's say, the custom clearance in Turkey or in Greece. Our specialty is quite widened, and we can service, let's say, the whole of Europe for your company. Next slide, please. As said, we can make a complete visibility in your supply chain. We do this either via the website, or we can connect with your system. With this, we also provide you with a document management system and communication module, which means you can see what we see, and in the end, that's, in our view, the way to go. As what we say is, we connect your system with ours, and from that you get all the status documents, and also the several points of contact, or ETS, ETA, and so on. Next slide, please. As there is our specialist on the USA Canada trade. As said, my colleagues are on the background. We have multiple service contracts with all the shipping lines servicing between the US and Europe. We service both Antwerp and Rotterdam because several shipping lines don't serve both ports. Depends a little bit on that. And from those ports, we again have capability to service you by providing on carriage or throughput by either rail transportation, truck transportation, and in Europe we have a special bond with the waterways. In Europe, we can service until Switzerland by the River Rhine, and from that's cheaper, let's say, than train transportation. Although train is faster, and in the end, the truck is the fastest way to go. Next slide, please. Yeah, well, not to go on too broad, but we have multiple offices worldwide, where we have our own office in Thailand, we have an office in the US, and of course we can service you by Rotterdam Overseas Network with the whole of the world, where we offer port agency services with an equipment tower. Dutch Road is intermodal services. Again, we can offload your container. We can then transport by truck to several destinations within Europe. If you service, let's say, from Rotterdam, you can service short sea destinations such as the UK, which can't handle the bigger ships, or let's say the Scandinavia, Baltics, we do via Dutch Road. Next slide, please. Cross trades. In this case, this doesn't have anything to do with, let's say, the Rotterdam port or Europe. But if you have a shipment, let's say, between Turkey and Barbados or China to the US, we can also service you with that by our cross-trade department. But again, our focus at the moment is the USA-Europe trade. Next slide, please. We have our own train operation running, which means we can service from Rotterdam, Duisburg, Germany, which is the intermodal hub within Europe. From Duisburg, Germany, you can go to Poland, Switzerland, Germany, brought on to France. We can even service Spain. And this we can do with our own train operation. It's a 100 TEU train. It's not double stack like in the US, so it's only one stack. So that's the capacity. The maximum length of a train is 670 meters, and it's completely containerized. So our focus in that is containers, and from that we service the whole of Europe. Next slide, please. Here you see a little bit of our destinations. You can also see the Port of Rotterdam. There is a difference in the Port of Rotterdam within the city area and the deep sea area. The deep sea area can handle the bigger ships. The shorter the city area can only service, let's say, intermodal or short sea destinations such as the UK or Scandinavia, Baltics. At the moment, Russia is forbidden, so that's a common slide, but it's still incorporated in the presentation. Next slide, please. Cross Limits Logistics is our intermodal expert. It serves you with, let's say, upon arrival, Rotterdam or Antwerp and onwards. It's sort of a broker in multimodal transportation. And again, that's barge or inland shipping, rail transportation, and truck. And we can also offload, let's say, your container into trailer transportation and then service onwards into Europe. Next slide, please. The depot operation we service for the shipping lines. Here we store and repair, clean containers. We can also service you by storing your full containers. So let's say if you have 10 containers with the same product on its way, then we can accommodate you by, let's say, storing 9 containers on our facility and only delivering 1 container, which gives you more space, let's say, in your warehouse operation. What is also an additional advantage is that since we service the shipping lines, we can also see if there are any damages to the container. So if you have your upload and then if there are, let's say, problems in the container, then we can service or repair those containers, or even say, well, it's caused by, let's say, in this case, the discharge address. Next one. Antwerp, we have the same facility where we can also store full containers. We are water connected. which is a big difference, I think, with the US, which means that in the end, the US, it's mainly a truck and rail market. In Europe, we can also arrange throughput via inland shipping, and from that service, let's say on the River Rhine, the whole of Germany until Austria and Switzerland. Next slide, please. In the Netherlands, we have a restriction in the containers. It's mainly caused due to the fact that the Chinese, when they, let's say, ship out rice containers, it was often that insects were in those containers. KGN provides a service in that respect by measuring the air quality in the container. So if, let's say, in the container where rice is in the container and there are insects in, then we can service that by they put in, let's say, different compounds to kill the bugs, but it can also be harmful for, let's say, people going into the container. With KGN, we measure the air quality, and from that, we can say if it's safe to enter or not. If it's not safe to enter, we can devane or ventilate the container with a special device through the air of the container, and then clean the container from hazardous chemicals. And then you can discharge the container safely. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, is a little bit outdated. Anyway, we can service you from the US and from door to door, which means we can pick up, let's say, your goods in the US, bring them to any port in the US. That's from New York to Los Angeles to Miami, Houston, and then go to Rotterdam or Antwerp. And from Rotterdam and Antwerp, we can service you by doing the custom clearance and the final door delivery by either truck, rail, or barge. That's it.
Okay, we did have a couple questions come in. I see your team has answered at least one. But one of the questions was just why Netherlands is the common shipping entryway into the EU.
The Rotterdam port, to be honest, is the one with the biggest draft, which means the bigger ships. So if, let's say, between the ships above 8,000, they only call Rotterdam. The other ports are not able to handle it because of the draft of the ship. Besides that, the intermodal connections from Rotterdam into Europe are I think, the biggest in the whole of Europe. If you look at Hamburg, it's mainly a rail connected deep sea port. If you look at Antwerp, the focus is more on inland shipping by barge. If you look to Rotterdam, we have all the modalities available. So either truck, rail, and barge, we can do everything from Rotterdam. Besides that, the intermodal connections to, let's say, Germany from Duisburg, where we also service 7 to 6 times a week a train, have capabilities to service onwards to, let's say, Poland, Austria, Turkey, Spain. So if you look at Rotterdam as a whole, it is the biggest intermodal hub within Europe, and in the end, the biggest port. So we have a capacity of, let's say, 12 million containers on an annual basis, of which we, as one company, service around 700,000 containers a year. And in that respect, Rotterdam is for us our main point of entry or main point of exit. Besides that, we use Antwerp because of the fact that several shipping lines, such as MSC, they use Antwerp mainly as their biggest hub for, let's say, only the US. So MSC has a lot of connections from Antwerp into the US, while CMA, or for example, Maersk, has several connections from Rotterdam. But we can service both. We can service both by doing custom clearance for our customers. It's quite simple by a power of attorney and delivering us with the packing list and the invoice. And from that, we can do a custom clearance for in the end, your goods, and then deliver it to the end customer.
All right, thank you. And we have like 4 minutes left. So any final questions, please put in chat. In the meantime, we also have one of our other certified global business professional is Mark Schmidt in a different SBDC office, also serving Arizona. So Mark, I just allowed you to talk. If there's anything you want to say about your services?
Well, I just say welcome. I thank you for this opportunity. Hats off to the speakers. Once again, it does show the cooperation that everybody has in global trade. You'll find this is a community where everyone works well with everyone. The idea is to facilitate trade. But like I say, as Tom, as well as our offices, we're here to help and assist any way that we can. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us.
And Mark, where are you located?
I'm actually, right now, I'm in Douglas. When I look out my window, I can see the Mexican border. The county that we're in actually services to international export in Nogales and also in Douglas, which is sister city of Agua Prieta, and also to Douglas, Mexico. Excuse me, Naco is the other port of entry. So I'm actually in the southeastern corner of Arizona.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Mark. And I will turn it over to Carol. And first, I want to express my thanks to all of our speakers for taking the time to join us today. And Dennis, especially your team, for overcoming a few technical difficulties and getting back online. So Carol, you want to take this and wrap us up?
Yeah, thank you for everyone's joining with us today. And our next webinar will be Export to Asia. We will be focused on Singapore. Will be started November 1st, 10 to 11. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me and Tom. Here's our email address. Now we will send our today's presentation to everyone joined. And thank you again. If you don't have any other questions, so we'll be closed on time.
Yeah, please complete the evaluation.
Yeah, we will send the evaluation afterwards via email. And I see some chat will be answered by our Dutch freight forwarder already online. I mean, via the chat. We will share their information out today. So feel free to contact each other. I mean, welcome to come back to us with any questions later on.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Okay. So I think we are all wrapped up. Let's see. Thank you, Karen. And
All right, I will. So I've got to run to the airport. So I'm going to get this posted tomorrow, and I'll send out the presentation tomorrow as well.
okay. Perfect. Hey, Mark, are you there still?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm in the library in Douglas. I'm actually taking off to visit the Mexican Council in about half an hour here. And so I don't even think I'm in the library. I don't even think I had a camera on today. I can hear and see, but I don't think you can see me.
No, we
No,
cannot
we
see you.
can't. Oh,
And
we can.
if you guys want to talk, I'm